Hello! So this evening we are going to do a night flight in the FlyByWire A320 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're going to fly from Standsted down to Montpellier in France. I just thought it might be fun to do a night flight for a change, because you rarely see people do them in the simulator. So it's going to be mostly instruments, but I think with the big jets that's kind of their world anyway, so we'll see how we get on. So before we get started, let's go and do the flight planning part of this. I'm going to use the Simbrief. I'm going to use the airline, which is going to use Simbrief to generate the plan. So I've got the pre-file page here in the airline over at airline.virtualflight.online. I've already filled in from Stansted to Montpellier. I've not put in any route, so Simbrief can provide us the route. So if we scroll down and generate the Simbrief operational flight plan, we'll see what it gives us. So we're coming into this completely blind on purpose, and then we'll deal with whatever we need to do along the way. Okay, so it should come up momentarily with the operational flight plan. Here it is. So leaving on runway 22, 30 right into Montpellier, cruising 37,000 feet. Everything looks fine. So if we want to visualize this, we can either use SkyVector to do it, so I'll just quickly show you this. So it pops open in SkyVector and it shows us our basic route across the world to get from Stansted over to Montpellier. Or we can go over to our software that we normally use with Flight Simulator, so we've got LittleNavMap here. If we go to the File menu and open the flight plan from Simbrief and download it, and create it, and there's the same flight plan. Now it's going to be interesting. So yeah, okay, so this has actually got the approach and everything on it already, and the standard instrument departure. That's good. So then if we come over to Navigraph to do the same thing, if we say import flight into Navigraph from Simbrief, and we've got the latest one that's been generated, and we can download that, and there it comes. And you can see it hasn't got an approach selected, so let's go and zoom in on Montpellier. So yeah, this final piece of the approach is missing. So let's go and see what it's advocating. It's actually saying to go for the VOR DME runway 30 right. There is another option, but I think, yeah, I think we'll have some cleaning up to do with that. That'll be fun to do anyway. So if we add this to the route, it will overlap slightly. So we'll have a little bit of tidying up to do in the airplane, but we'll do that in the airplane. We're not going to worry so much about Navigraph not showing it quite correctly, but we'll see how we get on. And I'll be able to explain what I mean by overlapping when we get there. Okay, so we're in the airplane. Before we go any further, let's go and run ACARS. So we'll go to the airline from the operational flight plan we've generated. If we click the ACARS button, it will launch the ACARS application, which is part of Virtual Flight Online. And you can see it's sitting here, and it's got the full flight plan on it. It's got the airline and the flight number and all the coding and the passengers and everything. So we can just say start flight in there. And it says started boarding on the status page, and we can just minimize that out of the way, and we'll have a look later and get told off for anything we've done wrong. Okay, so we're going to jump inside the airplane now and see about getting the airplane ready. So we're in the Airbus A320, and it's dark, very, very dark, and this is where knowing the shapes of the switches really comes into its own, because obviously we can look overhead and we can just about make out, if we look very carefully, where the battery switches and things are. So I'm just trying to adjust our view slightly here. So we know normally they're up here, aren't they? So there's the batteries. And now it's saying that the power is available. And this is where knowing things by feel is so important. So if we come over here and turn on the dome light, I knew it was the third switch over from that knob. So that helps us enormously, so we can turn that right up. So this is why aircraft are designed with different shaped knobs and switches. So in the dark you can still go by feel and orient them from each other. So with practice you know where things are without looking. Okay, So we've got the basic power on in the aeroplane. Before we go any further, let's go into the tablet then, boot the tablet up, and we'll go and connect the jet bridge. Actually, let's import the Simbrief data first. So we've imported our flight into the tablet so we can look at information here, so we get the view of the operational flight plan should we need it. We can also go to ground now, and we can say in services, let's go and connect the jet bridge and connect the ground power units. So, whoa, the sim's just frozen there for a moment. We're asking it to do a lot at once because I've got a very, very accurate version of Standsted in the background. If we go and have a look, you can see it's got all the monorails and everything working. It's really lovely. So just waiting for the jet bridge to attach. It works really well with the FlyByWire A320 actually. Okay, so we have the jet bridge. So now let's go and busy ourselves with looking at the fuel. And we will say import the fuel from our Simbrief plant. So import the numbers basically, or the fuel requirements. And then make that happen instantly. So it's put that fuel into the aeroplane. So then we go to the payload section. And we say, well, let's get the seating plan from Simbrief. So we'll click the Simbrief button. So there's the plan, but it hasn't actually loaded yet. So we're going to do an instant load to save us some time.
Boarding completed.
And the people have now got on board the aeroplane. Okay, the next thing we'll be doing will be pushback and disconnecting the jet bridge and things like that, but that's going to take a little while yet. So, what do we do next? We go and look overhead, and we go and put the strobe lights to on. Go and put the nav and the logo light to number 2. Turn the master switch on for the auxiliary power unit and start the auxiliary power unit.
Ladies and gentlemen from the flight deck, on behalf of myself, your
turn the crew supply on. Put the emergency exit light to armed.
Some paperwork up front here and waiting to see final numbers from the ground crew.
Put no smoking sign to auto.
Shortly with a very important safety briefing. We do ask that you
go and turn the ADIRs to nav.
The operations of this Airbus aircraft. We do appreciate your business having you aboard this flight. If there's anything we do to make your flight any more
and then we can go and brighten up the screens as needed around the cockpit. So let's go and brighten them up a little bit, but not too much, because it's already quite dark outside, so we don't need such bright screens, but we'll brighten them up a little bit at least. I think I've got the ADIRs on instant align, so you should see the attitude indicators come to life. There we go. Talk of the devil. Should we brighten up these numbers here? That's this knob underneath the FGCP here. Okay, so next thing we do is go down to the MCDU, so Control 5, and if we go into the FMGC and go to init and do an init request, that will pull from Simbrief and load the flight plan in for us. There it comes. So it's saying it's in progress. We can clear that message out. Clear the GPS primary, that's telling us that the GPS is aligned. And then we can go sideways in here and put the weights in. And then we can go to fuel planning and confirm it, and that will pull from the settings that were in the tablet. So that should all be accurate and all the numbers light up, so it's figuring everything else out. It's very good, isn't it? Then we can go into, if we go sideways it should come back around in a circle. Yes, we're back in the initialization page. So let's go and look at the flight plan page and say how we're leaving Standsted and how we're arriving at Montpellier. So we're leaving on, now let's go and check that flight plan in Simbrief. Leaving on runway 22 and using the Gb B1R departure. So leaving runway 22 and the Gb B1R standard instrument departure, and we'll insert those into the flight plan, and then we'll see how we're going to arrive at Montpellier, and we'll arrive. Now this is going to get into that, I want to use the ILS to make my life easy when we get there, so I'm going to say ILS 30 right, and I want to use the MEN 6T arrival, and I think it's going to cause trouble. If you noticed, it wasn't the immediate answer that Simbrief, that Navigraph wanted us to choose. So we'll find out why in a moment. So let's go and let's go and do our gross check of that flight plan. So if we go and switch the navigation display to plan mode, and let's have a step through the plan. So we're leaving Standsted, we're flying along through our plan. Now we've got a discontinuity here once we leave Nugbo. Yeah, so if we go and have a look on Navigraph, let's go and find out what's going on there. So there's Nugbo. So I think all it means is the standard instrument departure ends here, but the airway doesn't start until over here, although there is one there, but it may be at the wrong altitude for us. So what we'll do is just clear out that discontinuity for the moment, and that closes the gap. So let's come back up, or scroll the legs back up. So let's have a look so we can see this screen at the same time. So we're making our way down across France. And we're just making sure that it all looks sensible. So it's following the airways, all of the waypoints, all of the way. And here we go, we're turning across towards Montpellier. So we're overhead Montpellier at this point. Then we fly out on this circuitous route. Is that the right word? Now look, if we look at the order here, we've got SPIG and then CI-130R. So it's going to try and go there, then there. This is what I was worried about. So what we will do is remove SPIG from the plan. Okay? So we'll clear SPIG out and then clear the discontinuity, and it's connected it up neatly and tidily. Okay, so that's all looking an awful lot better now. Very good. Okay, so we press flight plan to come back to the top of the list of legs, and we'll go and put this back on arc mode, and it's showing the standard instrument departure at Standsted once again. So we've got the basics in of the plan. Okay, so next on our list is to go and program the FGCP, or Master Control Panel, for the autopilot. So we're going to use manage speed. Oh, it doesn't want to let us. Why won't it let us? Interesting. Let's go and have another look. Have we missed something? No, that all looks fine. We probably haven't put. We haven't put the data in for the performance, have we? That's why. So, flaps 2. That will allow us then to dictate the speeds for rotation. Obviously, it can't use managed speed unless you've got the performance data for the aircraft. So that's a good slip up there. Something I'm not reading my own instructions, basically. So we can check through the rest of it. So climb. This is following the cost index has been taken from the Simbrief plan, obviously. We'll fill in the approach data when we're en route. Okay, so go back to here now, and you can see we've got manage mode on the speed available because we have programmed the performance data into the MCDU. Okay, so we're going to go straight for 37,000 feet. To keep this nice and simple for ourselves. In the real world, you get cleared to different heights by different controllers along the way, but that's all fine. We're going to use the step climb following any restrictions. It is automatic in the Airbus, so that will all be fine. Okay, so what do we do next? We go and calibrate the altimeters. So I'll press B to shortcut that, and you'll see them just change it ever so slightly, and you saw the QNH change there. Should we put this into hectopascals? Seeing as we're in an Airbus, we ought to be in metric, really. What's next? Control 8, seatbelt signs. So let's go and put the seatbelts to on. The external power can come off because the APU is obviously up and running by now. So let's go and look in the tablet and go and see about getting rid of some of those services. So remove that ground power unit from the aeroplane, remove the jet bridge from the aeroplane, and we're getting ready for pushback. Okay, so we can go to the pushback section. We can turn the pushback system on and confirm it. We can call the tug to the aeroplane. So we just wait for him to line up. So press end, and we can see this happening from outside. Oh, a few stutters from the sim there. So we're just waiting for the pushback truck. And we're going to be getting ready to start the engines. But we'll get the pushback initiated first. So is he attached yet? It looks like he is. It's a shame they don't give you an audible cue for that. So let's initiate pushback. Come off the parking brake. And then we start working through starting the engines while the pushback is happening. So we'll do the pushback nice and slowly. So beacon light comes on. The fuel pumps go to on. The APU bleed goes to on. APU bleed's down here. And then we can use our controller if we have the controls. Wait, I had the ignition on the wrong. I didn't do a pre-flight check of the switches, did I? So the ignition was on the wrong system. So there we go. And I've actually got an engine starting already, look. Because I didn't do the checks. So the engine's already spinning itself up. So we'll give it a few moments and it will catch up with itself. So while that's happening, yeah, look, it's caught up now. There we go, ignition's just happened. So we are pushing out backwards at the moment, and we want to be turning right, or left from our point of view. So from here we will go left turn. The highlight will go out on the engine once it's started. And the sim is frozen by the sounds of it. Give it a few seconds. It will unfreeze itself, it always does. There we go. So as soon as engine number 2 has started, we'll go for engine number 1. There we go. So engine number 1 now. Put the flaps to takeoff position, ready to go. And we'll stop that pushback from happening now. And put the parking brake back on. Confirm, turn the pushback system off. So he will pull away from the aircraft now. Engine number 1 is coming up. So as soon as we've got both engines, we can go and turn the APU bleed off. Continue to turn the APU off, and the start says avail for a while. So we'll leave that as it is. Okay, so we've already put the flaps into takeoff position. We make sure the nose wheel steering is armed. That's over here, and that is. We pull up for the ground spoilers. We make sure the nose taxi light is on. Just checking around a few things before we roll out towards the runway. We're looking good, so let's just check here as well. So predictive wind shear is off, we can go and switch that on as well. We could do this normally on the way to the runway, but we can do it while we're sitting here, so we haven't got a mad panic anywhere. The ignition switch is still on, so ignition comes off now. and TCAS is on standby, so we'll do this a little bit early, just so it's out of the way. So this can go on to, it can either go to auto or on, and we'll go to T8RA straight away. Normally you'd only use T8. Okay, so I think we're looking good. Just checking round that we haven't missed anything too obvious. Okay, let's go and roll out towards the runway then. So park and brake off. Oh, you know what was going on there? The engines were in reverse. I hadn't actually set my reverse levers on my throttles. Just shows, doesn't it? Set it. I didn't go through the check earlier. Like, you know, I said the ignition switch was in the wrong place. My throttles were at the wrong detent. So let's go and put head tracking on so we can actually have a look around. Should we get onto the correct route out here? Actually, we want to be on the right. So we're going out to runway 22, aren't we? So we've got the taxi lights on. So it just goes to prove, doesn't it? They often get problems with the USB controllers somehow, or sometimes not putting the joysticks in the right place. Now, which direction do we want to go? Let's go and have a look at the ground plan of the airfield at Standsted. So we can go straight on, and then right and then left to get to the runway. Okay, we'll do that. Let's get back onto the guided lines. Okay, we're going to line up. Obviously we have no ATC, so we're not having to wait for anybody. Okay, parking brake on. Landing lights to on. Nose lights to, if I can get the head tracking to, I'm turning head tracking off, it's being a so-and-so. We'll put strobe lights to on, firmly on, so we don't get any issues with them being one way or the other. We'll turn the internal lights down to dim now, so we can actually see outside nicely. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. I know I didn't do the final checks. We're not going to worry too much. Okay, so we're just rolling through. Rotate speed. So gently rotate, no more than 3 degrees per second. Gear up. Throttles to the climb detent. Autopilot on. Flaps to 1, and we'll just wait for the aircraft to gently accelerate its way out. The gear is up. Should we put the head tracking back on there because we can actually take our time and have a look around. Let's go and dim these screens back down. A bit too much. There we go. Obviously we can see our own lights are shining off the clouds. Unfortunately we can't do much about that until we get through 10,000 feet to turn them off. We can turn the nose light off though because the undercarriage has already gone up. And it's the problem with the head tracking. Look, it's very, very difficult with small click spots to deal with that. Unless you stop talking, and it stops, especially with the Tobii. Talking tends to make it wobble around. You can see it happening. Should we zoom this out slightly? I'm going to turn the head tracking off. It's being a real pain. Sometimes it works brilliantly. Sometimes it can be horrendous. That's not for the map view, is it? That's for the pushback. There we go. I just don't want to miss out on the views outside. Because on the exit away from Standsted, it's going to look quite cool. With this mist in the air, it really does show the lighting, doesn't it? Very, very strongly. So notice at the moment we're holding at 4,000 feet, even though we want to go to 37,000 feet. And that's because of this, look, there's an altitude restriction until we get to the next waypoint. So until we get to D169, we're not going to be allowed to climb. Also, we're holding 250 knots, or below 250 knots. So now we've finished climbing. I was worried about making that turn, so I'm releasing the flaps now, which will allow it to accelerate out to 250. Trouble is, that will make that radius even bigger. Though it seems to be correcting slightly. Okay, we don't need the ground spoilers armed anymore, so we can go and push that back down. Seatbelt light is still on, landing lights are still on, but we are still below the transition altitude. We can find that out easily on the Navigraph charts. If we go and look at the departure, you can see up the top, transition altitude 6,000 feet. So when we pass through 6,000 feet, we will transfer over to, we pull for standard barometric pressure, which is 1013 or 2992 inches. But we're not climbing it, obviously. It's still doing this turn out to Nugbo. What's the altitude for Nugbo then? Why is it not climbing? Oh, it's because it's the same restriction. So until we get through Nugbo, we're not allowed to climb. Okay. Which does mean you get a lovely, misty view of London out of the window. Or the northern end of London, anyway. So there's the airfield behind us. So I don't mind doing night flights at all. It makes no difference to me really, because I've got so used to using the various instruments that it's not really a concern. So I'll wait until we go up through the transition altitude, maybe at 10,000 feet, and then I'll pause recording until we are near top of descent. Because yeah, seeing us trudge across the sky over France won't be much fun until we get on to approach into Montpellier. Here we go, look, it's gone past Nugbo, it's going for throttle climb, and you can see the climb rate is shooting up. So very presently we will go through 6,000 feet, so I need to be ready to pull this as we do so. So I'm going to turn off head tracking. Should we sit up so we can see outside and see me do this? Let's increase the range now on the navigation display so we can see the next waypoints coming. 5,000 feet. We are really climbing now, look. 5,500. There we go. Standard barometric pressure as we go through the transition altitude. And we're on our way. So the next thing to take notice of will be 10,000 feet. And we're going to turn the landing lights off. $8,700 feet, 8,800, 89, 9,000, 93, 94, 98, 99. Our landing lights off and retracted. We could also go and turn the tail light back to off. Oh, that's nav and logo, sorry, I'll put it back on. I didn't realise it was the nav lights as well, so we're going to get the tail. Oh, actually it's disabled on its own, that's interesting. Didn't realise it did that. Okay, so we're just climbing out now to cruise. I don't think there's any more altitude. Oh, there are, look. So, no, they're not going to be restrictions. So let's go and have a look at the chart just to confirm that. So it was 4,000 to Nugbo. Yeah, it's just a free climb now. So this is just on the airways. So airways themselves can have restrictions, of course, because each airway is at a different altitude range. It's interesting that you can't see it very clearly on Navigraph, but you can on LittleNavMap. If we turn on the airways, the Victor and the Juliet airways, when you zoom in on them, look, you can see from 9,000 to 46. And here you can, look, you can see this one, 9,000, 24,500. And this one is 9,000 up to 24,500. And so on and so forth. So it's much easier to actually find that out in LittleNavMap, bizarrely. So each application is good at different things. No one application does everything as easily as the others. Let's close that diagram. So this is what the point I said I would pause recording. So I'll see you soon on approach into Montpellier. Okay. And pause recording. Okay, we're back. We're just approaching top of descent on the way into Montpellier. So you can see the flight plan sketched out in front of us. We're about 40 miles out from top of descent at the moment. So we'll start thinking about taking a look at the chart, seeing what the plans are. Let's switch this over to day mode. It's a bit easier to see, isn't it? Okay, so let's go and have a look at the diagram for the standard terminal right route. So we come in at the Linda and follow the route in. So flight level 110, flight level 120, so above 120, below 190, max to 50 knots. So obviously the Airbus is going to follow these instructions for us. Tremendously easy. So when you come in over the top of the air, go out over the bay, descending as we go. So to see a bit better, a bit of detail, we can come here and we push the route, so we'll be joining the final approach out to the point where you can go to a hold, and then we'll come straight in. So at the 6.2 marker, which is here, the S-Big, you see it wants us to be at 2,000 feet over here. We'll see what the Airbus does in the picture. You could probably check that on the legs page. So yeah, it's got the 2,000 feet in there, look. That's an approach altitude. And it started to decelerate on the way in for finals, which is good. Shouldn't be long now. We're about 120 miles out. Obviously we have this loop around to do, so about probably 150 by the time we loop around. If we go and set, because we're using managed altitude mode, we could just go and set the altitude we want. So you'll notice we can move this around and nothing happens at the moment. It'll only once we push it, it'll be once we push it towards the aircraft that it will start to react. So if we take it straight down to 2,000 feet, it will follow the instructions on the way. We've got a few moments before we have to do that. So looking inside. Passed over the edge of Paris earlier. It's quite picturesque. So we're coming down over the south of France. So we've got the Pyrenees over here, the Alps over here. Okay, so we're approaching the top of the descent, so let's go and go to manage mode to come down to 2,000 feet and see what it does. So we're starting the descent immediately. Okay, let's go and check
deck, ladies and gentlemen. As we have noticed, we have begun our initial descent down to our destination. Now would be a good time to wrap up any business you need to take care of as we prepare for our approach. If you are up, once you return to your seat, we ask that you remain seated until the aircraft arrives safely at the gate. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for arrival.
So I'm going to seatbelt sign back on there and descending. So yeah, you wouldn't have seen that. I turned the seatbelt sign off when we got to the top of the climb. You go racing off to the toilet as though we're still in the big flights. You can see on the panel here it's indicating the seatbelt sign on. If there are any other aircraft around, yes there are they? These are other people using the same airline as the virtual flight online. So there's a Cessna 337, a Tobii Eye 850, and a PA-28, and all the big jets around. Cirrus XL-22, the A62, Chancellor, Cessna, an A300, okay, 172, 172, 172, I don't know where he's going. I was just leaving. A320, Kodiak, Dreamliner, A320. Yeah, there's a few people around. We've got somebody on the ground at Standsted as well. 737. I completely forgot to launch Volanta. It would have been quite interesting to have seen the 3D track. I guess we could you don't have to launch Volanta immediately, so we could launch it after the fact and it will be fine with that. So we could upload an aircraft image we've got here, so I'm going to go for this one here. Sign for this one is VFA 0001. And we can add a flight plan, we can import what we're doing from Simbrief so it knows where we are. There's the plan. We should find ourselves just coming down here. It's our active flight. So this will become three-dimensional as we speak. So you can see it happening. On the descent profile into Montpellier. So we'll minimise Volanta out of the way. And we'll start bringing the range in on the navigation display. Down to 30,000 feet. So let's go and have a quick look at the chart. Transition altitude is 5,000 feet, okay. So should we go and also then have a look? We'll use Navigraph for a change to do this. We open up Montpellier at the airport, because we've got 10166 pascals for the local barometric pressure, 13 inches. Okay. So 10,000 feet we've switched the lights on, 5,000 feet we switched to local barometric pressure. Everything's flying itself, which the Airbus is very good at. I may take over on finals, just to give myself something to do. Take over the flying and the throttle. We'll see. Okay, so rather than make you wait for the next 10 minutes, I'll pause this again, and when we're over the top of the airfield and doing the second round, I'll unpause and you can watch from then on. Otherwise it's going to get tremendously boring. Okay, so I'm just unpausing a little bit earlier than I said I might, because I've just remembered we need to go and put in the destination data into the MCU. So we'll go into init, then is it performance? Yes, it is. So we want to put the QNH and the temperature at the destination, and the wind would be useful as well. So let's go over and have a look. So we've got the QNH was 1016. 016. Temperature at the destination is 13 degrees centigrade. And the wind is, it says variable 2 knots, so it's just going to go north then. Okay. Through. That's all looking good. So we're just coming down to 15,000 feet. You see the aircraft's only coming down gently. That's because it's following the guidance for the standard term arrival route. So we're going to turn that back on. Well, wrong one, sorry, this one. So there you go. It's just following the restrictions, basically. And now it knows it only has to get to 2,000 feet by the time it comes all the way around here. Cage, we're going to look outside. Well, actually, let's go and shorten up the range now on the navigation display. Starting to make a lot more sense now, isn't it? So while we're here, we'll go and double check the frequency of the ILS. So 10855, 303 degrees. Let's go and double check that on the Navigraph page. 10855, 303. It's looking good. Glide slope 3 degrees. So that came in fine. Do 13,500 feet. To the coast out in front of us. The aircraft has already decelerated to 250 knots, which is great. If you go and look on the chart, that may well be mandated. Actually, no, it isn't. Oh, it is. Yeah. As soon as you go past Lecco, then you're down to 250 knots. Why? So the aircraft is successfully following the instructions. If you look in the plan, you can see that there it is. Lecco 250, then on to Valag 250. Copy. All the way down. If you scroll further, you'll start to see the speed, the deceleration in the final steps. There we go, 201 knots at sea, 30R, and so on and so forth. Plan button, it puts you back to the current position. You can see we're approaching Valag, which is always the second item down, is the thing you're approaching. That's a control glitch, take no notice. Just make sure all the levers are still in the correct places. Okay, we're doing the left turn now at Valag. Remember, we're going to fly overhead the airport, so we'll go to the external view in a moment, because it's quite nice to see it as we fly over. Still 25 miles out. There it is. Obviously we're going to fly it over the bay and come back. Okay, 11,500 feet. Remained mindful of the turning the lights on at 10,000. It's been the trouble for free flight, really. I think that's the secret of the Airbus, is if you program them up, they usually are a trouble-free flight. I think where the skill comes in, it's worth practicing these various procedures for practicing how to operate the airplane correctly. If you're flying in controlled airspace with ATC, you need to know how to change your plans, how to reprogram the FMC at a moment's notice. So the MCW, sorry, we're in an Airbus only, not a Boeing. You need to be able to reprogram the flight plan at a moment's notice to maybe put a hold in or do the ring 2. Like that. So it's worth practicing some of those things from time to time. Also being able to go to selected mode on any of the controls, speed, heading, altitude. It's rare that you ever need to use vertical speed mode on the Airbus, but it's fairly straightforward to use. We're coming through 10,000 feet, so we're going to go and put the landing lights to on. Check outside. See, we are lighting the way ahead of us very, very brightly. There's no mist in the air though, so we're not going to see them in front of us very easily. Nice just to see us come in over the descending, still following the profile, still doing 250 knots. We are following the standard terminal arrival route, which takes us out over the bay, and then we swing back in. Zooming a little bit, you start to see some of the features on the ground. Housing and maybe some traffic on the roads if we get a little bit lower by the time we come over the airport. See all the street lights. Hoping we'll get low enough to see some traffic. It'll be fascinating if we do. It's one of the only failings of the simulator. It doesn't really simulate traffic from far enough away at night. Misleading looking at this from the zoomed in view, isn't it? Okay, so the airplane is turning. There's Montpellier behind us. Zoom in on the cabin so you can see the crew. Okay, let's go and reduce that range. So we've come down towards 6,000 feet. We're not quite at 5,000 yet, so we don't need to do the barometric pressure just yet, but let's go and remind ourselves. It needs to go to 1016 hectopascals. Let's reduce the range on the navigation display. So here comes 6,000 feet, another 1,000 until we switch the barometric pressure. Then as the aircraft starts decelerating, we will be feeding in the flaps in the couch. And getting ready to switch over. As soon as we come out of the turn, we'll switch to landing system mode. We'll leave the navigation display on the far side. It's already flashing to warn us that we're approaching it, so we'll go in there and do it. So if we push it in, 1016 wasn't it? Just double check. Yes, it was. So we've now got the appropriate barometric pressure, so the altimeter is accurate in terms of the destination airfield now. And you can see the marker has appeared there for beginning the next descent stage, and then it will go for deceleration just past the post slit. So let's see how we go from here on. It should be fairly straightforward. It's slightly faster than 250. turn. See the stars outside. Calm down. You can see the moon's reflection in the water. That's always cool when that happens. So the stars projected in the sky in Flight Simulator are accurate, so you can use them to do astronavigation. Okay. So deceleration is coming up to no slot. Ready on the desk, have them to hand, ready to control the aircraft. So you can see the runway out there, lit up very brightly.
$2,500.
Just see the moon reflecting on the water. It looks lovely, doesn't it? Acceleration anytime soon, so you'll see the target airspeed marker go. We're just about to pass through it. There it goes. So we'll start feeding in some. We can use spoilers to help it. So I'm just fed in the first stage of spoilers down here. Slow down quickly. It's the first stage of flaps. So you can see over here the flaps are travelling. Plenty of time. So obviously the more you push the flaps out, the more drag you get. So let's go for landing system as well. Okay, so we can now see the localizer and the glide slope. So rather than let the airplane have all the fun, should we take over at this point? So disengage the autopilot, disengage the auto throttle as well. Getting a feel for where the throttle is. So full flaps. So then we just keep an eye on the localizer. So we see we're slightly off to the left, so we'll bank right. We're just coming down through the glide slope, so we'll dip the nose gently. Marker telling us we want the gear down for the the klaxon, because the flaps were down. So I'm just getting a feel for the ailerons here. Okay, straight plane. Getting a bit slow. So the target airspeed is about 130-ish. A bit high. So just No sudden movements. Just keep adjusting, keep monitoring, keep scanning.
$1,000.
I find it just is good practice to do manual landings whenever I can, really, because otherwise you lose the skill. That was the ground spoilers armed in case we need them.
400.
So an airline pilot told me very recently, you should deal with alarms as soon as they appear, even during the startup of the aircraft. This is his biggest gripe with watching people fly simulators, is not dealing with the alarms as they happen. Okay, you should see the swing into view. It's runway, we're a little bit high, but that's fine.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5.
Okay, you get to reverses. And yes, I know I didn't use the auto brakes. It's because I was controlling it manually, remember? Okay, let's go and put the nose steering on. If we can get the mouse to click on it with the head tracking, I have to turn the head tracking off to do that. It's being absolute so-and-so. It's done it all night. I still can't do it now, look. The click spot is absolutely minuscule on it. In fact, I'll have to bring it back to taxi now anyway. Okay, off the runway. As soon as we leave the runway, we turn the landing lights off and just use the taxi lights. We hold short here. We'll go and have a quick look at the diagram of the ground at the airport. So we continue on in and we'll go around to the terminal buildings. So straight line in from here. Brakes a bit too hard there. So on the taxi in, we can go and start the APU. So obviously this is not a steady level version of the airport. You can see it doesn't match very closely what we're seeing on the map. So yeah, we'll do a left turn here. Buildings with my wing. Go back over to the taxiway over here. Yeah, the markings aren't very clear on the. You can see that they only start fairly near the buildings. It's always a shame. The more more accurate airfields, I've got all the markings very clearly on the floor with signage as well. There is a gate over here, so should we use it? We'll see if we can find the line that lines up with the gate. Do they come in at an angle? It's difficult to tell, isn't it? This is this one here. Swing it out left, bring it back. Okay. So, because we have the APU, I'm going to turn the head tracking off. It's really having a nightmare today. Because we have the APU up and running, we can go and switch over, or switch the engines off. So I'm going to do that with my controls. I'm going to turn that taxi light off. The beacon light can come off now. I can go back to auto. Just checking some of the other things. We'll leave the seatbelt sign on for the moment. We don't want anybody running around just yet.
The doors verified?
So engines are off, so the pumps can come off. We could go to the tablet, go back to the ground section, go to services, ask them to connect the ground power unit. And we could ask for the jet bridge. I think it'll be this one. Are they going to do it? Maybe not. Let's have a look. Might have something to do with the jet bridge having a great big gap in it. You never quite know what you're going to find on the stock airports in Flight Simulator, do you? So, let's not worry too much then about deboarding properly. So, that can go back off. Overhead, we can go and turn the crew supply off. Now the engines are stopped, we can go back over to... Yeah, the external power hasn't appeared, look. That's a shame. Oh well. Not going to worry too much. So the ADIA system can come back off. The APU can go off when we go dark. Yeah, we're not going to worry too much about doing things ultra correctly. Oh, that's a real shame though about the power. I should let the passengers go, but now it's gone dark because of that glitch. I'm not going to worry. That's a shame, isn't it? Should we try that again? If I say jet bridge again... Yeah, well, obviously it can't do it now because I've got no power, so I'm guessing it's simulating... Oh no, it's lit up, but no, still no response. Oh well. Anyway, there we go. We're cold and dark on the ground in the A320, so let's go and end the flight in ACARS. So we go to the flight page and end, and file the flight with the airline, and the PIREP has been filed. So now we can go back into our browser, go to airline.virtualflightonline, and we can go to our name and go to reports. Actually, we should be on the front page thinking about it. If we go to the dashboard, we can see, yeah, London Standsted to Montpellier is in the recent reports. So if we go and click on the flight number, there's the report of our flight with the path we took. And we can see we took 23,000 euros. It cost us 16,000 to operate the flight. And we can see the PIREP data, so landing rate should be down here somewhere. Landing rate, there we go. 224 feet a minute, not too bad. Arrival runway 30 right, yeah, this all agrees with what we thought we were doing. And we should find, we haven't got... Oh, we got a rule violation. Strobes must be on during pushback or taxi. That was Yeah, that's a common bug with the simulator. We're still trying to fix that on the ACARS client. It gets its knickers in a twist about the strobes quite often with different aeroplanes. Anyway, so there we go. Should we go and have a quick look at Volanta as well, see what it made of it? So if we review our flight, we'll see from the point we switched it on, you can see our path in. Going to swing this around. We can come right down to the runway and see the exact point on the runway where we touched down. Very cool, isn't it? Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that this evening, and I'll see you again soon.